violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders. But thou shalt call thy walls salvation, and thy gates praise. The sun shall be no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee. But the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and thy God thy glory. Thy sun shall no more go down, neither shall thy moon withdraw itself. For the Lord shall be thine everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning shall be ended. Thy people also shall be all righteous. They shall inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time.
The ocean spirit dances today to abundance and joy and to eternal peace.
Jake about to live, man. Jake about to truly live forever. And how we gonna tap in? Through this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, which is gonna lead us into eternal life. This wisdom is gonna bring us into the kingdom of heaven, which starts with the elect. In Lord's will, we are those men. This is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6, and verse 17. And it reads, "For the very true beginning of her, and her represents wisdom. For the very true beginning of her is the desire of discipline. And the care of discipline is love. And love is the keeping of her laws. And the giving heed unto her laws is the assurance of incorruption. Therefore, the desire of wisdom bringeth to a kingdom." So this wisdom is going to bring us into the kingdom of heaven, because it starts with the Lord's men. If your delight be then in thrones and scepters, O you kings of the people, honor wisdom, that you may reign forevermore. You see?
To the glory of our golden age, may it shine forever.
So we're going to reign forever. Lord's willing, we are part of the elect.
Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready. And her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white. For the fine linen is the righteousness of saints. And he saith unto me, Right, blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he saith unto me, These are the true sayings of God.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Bakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to those younger brothers. And peace and blessing and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Dash, pushing get up out there. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And what I want to get into with this lesson, all right, I magnify my office. And this is a lesson inspired by a precept that's in the book of Romans, which we'll get it, within the lesson. Okay. And the concept of the lesson is, we all have our own office. Yahweh Shai, he gave, every man particular gifts, okay, for the service of the ministry, for the edification, of the body, And part of this truth, is us, tapping into the gifts that the Lord gave upon us, the Lord bestowed upon us, and one thing about a gift, a gift is something, that comes easy to you. You know, there's certain things that come easy to you that don't come easy to everyone else. And that's an indicator that the Lord has given a gift, in certain areas for us to, all right, magnify our office, not for the sake of, vain glory, all right, just to be seen, to be popular. No, for the sake of the edification of the body. Okay, thing that's being magnified is the edification, the Yahweh Shai that sent us the gift that Yahweh Shai gave us to edify, to teach. Okay, that's the thing that's being magnified, not us, not, you know, character, that we created for the internet. No, okay, we remain lowly, but the gift should be magnified. Okay, so let's go here, because I want to start with this parable. Let's go here. It's the book of Luke chapter 19 and 11. I'm going to the parable of the talents. Now, when you go into it, it started at 11, Luke 19 and 11. And it says, and as they heard these things, he added and spake a parable. This is Yahweh Shai speaking, because he was not to Jerusalem, and because they thought that the kingdom of the Most High should immediately appear. And this parable, was also going into that the kingdom, all right, wasn't going to be established in this time, all right, and during this time, all right, Yahweh Shai first coming. Okay, so a lot of people thought, his first coming meant, the kingdom of heaven forever, the kingdom of Israel. Okay, but it was still things that had to play out, and he had to go back to the Father. Okay, as he goes, verse 12, he said, therefore a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. And this nobleman is Yahweh Shai, and he had to go back to the spiritual realm, okay, and receive the kingdom, receive the blessings of the Father, okay, to have a kingdom in the earth, but it wasn't during this time. Okay, we are in these times now. It wasn't during this time back then, the first coming, but now we in those time where, all right, that nobleman, all right, Yahweh Shai in this parable is going to return. You see, this is Luke 19 and 13. It says, and he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said unto them, occupy till I come. Okay. But his citizens hated him and sent a message after him saying, we will not have this man to reign over us, man. Okay. The rebels, you see. But Yahweh Shai, he distributed, all right, these talents and said, occupy till I come. Okay. And you get this word occupy. Let's get in the Greek.
Strong's G 4231. Pragmatuomai. Pragmatuomai.
All right. It says, well, to be occupied in anything, to carry on a business, and our business is edification. Okay. Casting down, stronghold, false arguments. Okay. Defending the gospel. That's our business. Being a watchman. That's our business. This is what we do. This is the most important business that we have, okay, in the planet Earth. You see, this is the most vital business. You see, that the Lord has given us a talent. He expects us to carry on the business because he laid the foundation to teaching, to the doctrine. Okay? And he expects us, and his brethren, his little brethren, to carry on that business, man, with the talents that he's given us. All right, it says, but his citizens hated him and sent a message after him saying, we will not have this man to reign over us. Okay, and you see Jake in this spirit. When Jake is teaching false doctrine, saying whatever in the name, that's them saying, look, what we doing is our way. Okay, That's because they're saying they don't want Yahweh Shah to reign over them because he is our king right now. Okay, and if you and these men are in open rebellion, false doctrine, false names, etc., man, that's an open rebellion. Okay, and it says, and it came to pass that when he was returned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given the money, that he may know how much every man have gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, Lord, thy pound have gained 10 pounds. And he said unto him, well, thy good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a very little, have thou authority over 10 cities. Okay? And the second came, saying, Lord, thy pound have gained 5 pounds. And he said unto him, be thou also over 5 cities. So as the Heavenly Father, all right, through Yahweh Shai, was given talents, I say the ability to teach his word, the gifts, to be expert in particular things, to be, drawn, all right, to particular things. Well, all it comes, all right, through Yahweh Shai, so he distributed talents accordingly. And what I want to expound on with this parable is a guy with 10 talents. He did, based on the talents that was given unto him, he brought back 10 talents. Okay, and the talents that was given to the next, all right, the next Jake, you see, he brought back 5 pounds, and it was according to his talent. Okay, the man that brought back 5 pounds, well, he couldn't do the things that the man that brought 10 talents back, all right, 10 pounds. Okay, it wasn't his lot to do that. You see, but he magnified his office and whatever it was, man, which is all needful for the body. No matter how minute a brother might think his office or his talent is needed. And then and everyone benefits at us operating, in our highest capacity, man. There's always room for improvement, adjustments, and it doesn't always mean quantity of videos, man. It's a thing of quality, man. And there's things that have to be done, off camera and maintained for us to continue to have quality, man. Things that are not seen. Okay? Well, this is an account where both men stayed in their lane. The guy that brought back the 10 pounds, well, he didn't try to mimic, okay, be a carbon copy of the guy that brought back, or the Jake that brought back 5 pounds. Because he would have sold himself short according to his talents. He had the talents to do, all right, 10 pounds. Okay? That's why I say he magnified his office. He brought back, okay, according to his talents. Second guy, 5 pounds. He brought back according to his talents, and it's all acceptable, man. The Lord wants us to make good on these talents he's giving us, man. He wants us to magnify office, man. Each brother that has an office, man. We're called to be a teacher in this thing. We were called to an office. We was called and put on assignment, man. And to really get into it, you got to tap in. You see? You have all this access to these tools, okay? And it's for us to tap in, man. Now, let's go from there. I want to play this clip because this is from the street teaching of the beloved elder apostles, all right, this past week, okay, and they were going into the talent of the parable, and what they said towards the end, it played a part in inspiring this lesson. So let's play a little bit of this.
Now, here's the point. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchanges, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury.
Right, make some money off of it, man. And this is what we're doing. The Most High gave us this talent, and we're bringing it out to the people.
Yeah, not hiding it. That's sitting on.
Whatever is spoken in dark, we speak out to it on the rooftop, right?
Yep. And let's say you have
The
one.
candle cannot be hidden under a bushel, but out
Right.
right to give light. We are the light. We represent that, which is the how about
Yeah, let's say you have one talent. So what? Make the most of it. Right? You got one talent, make the most of it. That's like a guy, right? All he does is play drums, so he don't want to be in the band because he got a member of the band who's a multi-instrumentalist. He can play many instruments. Nah, man, you play drums, play the fuck out of them drums. Be the best drummer ever, right? That should be your mentality because that's your one talent. So make the most of it.
Make the most of it, you know, and that's what we're here to do, man. The video stopped on 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 44 seconds, man. Hey, Carl, I'm like, I'm about your mouth shot. Yeah, that's that whatever talent that the Lord give us, make the most out of it. You know, going back to magnify our office, man. You know, and then it shows appreciation. Like I said, everyone, you know, doesn't have the same talents. And you got men, you know, with multiple talents. Okay, but it's a lot required of that man as well. You see, everybody built, you know, to have the gifts and the talents that the Lord wanted them to have. Okay, so everyone is equipped to win it. Hey, how shot set us up to win? You know, he's not going to put, okay, 10 talents, it's like 10 talents on a man that ain't built, all right, make the most of those 10 talents. Okay, he's not going to put 5 talents on a man that's not built. Okay, to deal with those 5 talents, man. The Lord gives us the gifts, and those gifts are customized. We're already customized, all right, to fulfill these offices, man. You know, the thing is repetition, you know, commitment. You see, tapping into that gift, man, because I'm going here. Let's go into the book of Proverbs, chapter 18. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 18, verse 16. Yep. It says, a man's gift making room for him. You see that? So this gift is making room for us on those chariots, man. You see? This gift is literally making room for us on these chariots. You know? Making room for us when you read rest of it says, and bringing him before great men. You know, this gift is going to have us amongst the greats, man. The gift, hey, look, Yahweh Shah, man, he gave us a gift that's going to have us amongst the greats if we endure, man, if we keep flipping this talent, man. You know, that's why we got to pour into your craft, man. You know, niggas that play basketball, man, they're in the gym for hours, man. Niggas that's serious. Okay, they have certain talent. They got certain natural ability, and you know, they're in the gym for hours doing drills, committed. You see, they got the gift, and that's what separates. You know, because there's a lot of our people that's athletes, but what separates the professionals from? All right, just a straight nigga walking around with gifts, man. But there's a certain commitment, there's a certain discipline that goes with being a professional or being at the highest level. And then in the highest level, there's a certain, you know, drive, you know, to be elite. You see? So here it is. We've been given the greatest gift you can have. All right, because a nigga that can jump high. Okay, you see, a nigga that's quick or whatever. Well, he got a particular gift for a carnal crown, but we have gifts for an eternal crown that's going to bring us amongst great men. Okay, amongst the greats. You know, all these, you know, men that we read about in the Bible with our gifts is making room for us to rule with these men. King David, Joseph, you know, Daniel. You see, and you know, without mentioning Yahweh Shah, man, ruling with these men. You see, and the Lord has given us a gift. Okay, well, that's going to become a reality, man. When you go to the book of Ephesians 4, 4 and 8, and it's speaking of Yahushua, said, wherefore he said, when he ascended up on high, Yahushua, he led captivity captive. Okay, because he took away first, our captivity to sin, and gave us grace. Okay, now with the grace, it doesn't mean you have a green light to sin. Okay, quite the contrary. It creates an environment for us to fight to do right. So he took away the captivity we was under sin. Because we were being perpetually cursed. Okay, but showing faith during this grace period while we rehearse the righteous acts, man, it's going to lead to deliverance. Okay, and then, he's going to lead, all right, our captors into captivity at his return, which is Esau. Okay, that's the authority that Yahushua had. That's his office. It says, and gave gifts unto men, and gave gifts unto men. You see, and gave gifts unto men. So Yahushua, he sent back these gifts that we have, man. And he wants us, all right, to utilize these gifts, man. He wants us to magnify our office in this thing, man. Whatever it might be. And you learn through repetition. We learn through prayer, asking the Lord to show you, man. All right, asking the Lord to show us. Okay, what is his intention for us? All right, because if we're called into the truth, man, we're not called, all right, to be winging it and to be random, going through the motions. Nah, man. The Lord, hey, he called us to tap in, man. He called each and every brother to be on some particular assignment. And it all work together for the edification of the church, man. And it's going to bring us amongst great men, man, joint heirs, amongst those, all right, first fruits, man. You see, Lord will we endure. You see? So let's go from there. Let's get this in the book of Romans. I've been speaking on it. In the book of Romans, chapter 11. All right, which is where you get the title of the lesson. This is Romans 11 and 13. Said, for I speak to you Gentiles, all right, which we know these are Israelites, all right, they were Hellenized, okay, in which the circumcision looked at them as Gentiles, as heathens, okay, because they was within the customs of the heathens, okay, so they were looked at as Gentiles, which they were Israelites, man. Okay, it says in as much as I am the apostle, okay, I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify my office. Okay, first off, Apostle Paul understood his office. Okay, Apostle Paul wasn't trying to be Peter. He wasn't trying to be the head of the church. Okay, Apostle Paul was in order. He would check in. He would get certain confirmations, okay, concerning the doctrine for the sake of order. Okay, so he wasn't trying to operate as the head of the church. No, he was operating his office. You see, beginning to establish those churches, okay, that we read about in Revelation. Okay, so first he recognized his office. He knew what it was, and that's why the Lord had him to excel. And one thing about it, you can tell when a brother, is in his office, man, because he begins to excel. He begins to abound. You can tell that he's looking forward to doing what he do. You can tell he's really tapped into what he do. Because that's how the Lord set it up, man. You be excited about your gift, man. If you find your office, you be excited about your office, man. Even through, the ups and downs, because we constantly, going through the ups and downs of the ministry, man. But one thing that, always gives joy, the privilege to serve Yahweh, man, teach his word. Okay, knowing that edification going forth, man, that's a fulfillment that this world can't give. Okay. But Apostle Paul said, well, I magnify my office. Well, let's get this word magnify in the Greek.
Strong's G, 1392. Doxazo. Doxazo.
Doxazo. Okay. Which means what? I'm going to it. All right. It says to honor, to do honor to hold in honor. You see, he had honor, to Yahweh Shemal Shah for their gift. It said to make glorious or adorn with luster, to clothe with splendor. You see, and remember, we're not doing this, okay, for the sake of vain glory and intention. No, it's for the sake of edification. So imagine you're clothing your gift with splendor. That means what? Yeah, you're sharpening your skills. You're tapping into it. Okay. So now it's like, your gift has a beautiful robe on. Decking you, hey, tapping into your gift, man, like you're decking your gift out, man. Okay. And it's all for the sake of edification. Okay. It says to make renown, to render illustrious, to render it excellent, man. Excellent, they got that word excel, because we want to excel within our gift, man, for the sake of the body. Okay. For the sake of appreciation to Yahweh Shai and what he did to make it possible for us to have gifts, man, because he had to be tormented just for us to get gifts. So of course we want to excel for the sake of appreciation for that gift. Okay? It says to make renown, to render illustrious, all right, to cause the dignity and worth of some person or thing to become manifest and acknowledged. This is the main one. To cause the dignity and worth of some person or thing, and this thing is a gift. Okay? The worth of the person, Yahweh Shai, to become what? Manifest and acknowledged, man. Okay, and the glory doesn't come to us, man. It comes to the one who gave us the gift. Okay? You see? So the Apostle Paul, he had his mind, to manifest and to bring worth and value to his office, man, for the sake of what? The edification of the Israelite foreigners, man. You see, Apostle Paul, he was customized for that. Because you look at Apostle Paul upbringing, he was a Roman citizen, but he was a Pharisee at the same time. Okay, and he was the one that the Lord chose to be that bridge between the Israelite foreigners and the circumcision. Okay, so he understood the law, the breakdowns. Apostle Paul had the breakdowns, man. But he could simplify for the Israelite foreigners. He could simplify the law to them. Okay, because of his background, the Lord customized Apostle Paul, for his office, man. Okay, and Apostle Paul, he magnified it. You see, because we don't want to be given a talent in vain, man. That should be a fear. That's a fear of mine, man, to have this talent. Okay, and just to have it in vain. You see, and not, magnify their talent for the sake of Yahushua. Okay. Now, when you go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 9, say, for I'm the least of the apostles, that I'm not meant to be called an apostle. You see that? So he was magnifying office, but he wasn't magnifying himself. Okay, he magnified the office, but he wasn't magnified himself, man, because it's not about us, man. It's about the assignment. It said, because I persecuted the church of the Most High, but by the grace of the Most High, I am what I am. You see that? By the grace of the Most High, he understood that he was what he was, man. Okay, it says that his grace, which was bestowed upon me, was not in vain. Okay, so Apostle Paul knew that the Lord was having mercy on him. He understood that, especially what he was on, man. The Lord really could. You see, he could have cast judgment. Paul could have got judged in the midst of being against the church, man. But the Lord preserved him, and gave him gifts. Okay, and the Apostle Paul said, "Look, he didn't give me mine in vain." Okay, it said, "But I labored more abundantly than they all, yet not I." Okay, giving forwarding this credit to who? But the grace of the Most High, which was with me. See that? So yeah, look, his grace wasn't given to me in vain. I'm gonna make good with mine. Okay, I'm gonna labor and toil abundantly in mine. Okay, and he said even then he knew that was the grace of the Most High that was in me, that was allowing me, all right, to labor. Okay, and be abundant. You see? So let's go here and get ready and get one more. It's the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 6. It said, "But but this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly." So we don't want to sow sparingly, man, according to our gift. You see? We want to magnify offer, whatever that might be. Like I say, it's not a quota. There's no one trying to, outdo, a brother, okay? Or even be a carbon copy of a brother. No. The body benefits when we're us, all right? And we're operating within, okay, the gifts that the Lord has given us as individuals for the sake of the body. Because everybody gift complement each other, So us, sowing and teach his word, said he which sow sparingly shall reap also sparingly, but he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully, man. So with the talent we was given, man, we want to sow bountifully, man. We want to magnify in this thing, man. We want to excel. We want the word to excel, the talents that the Lord gave us to excel for the sake of the body. Okay, everyone benefits on us operating and being the best version of ourselves, man. You see? The word bountifully.
Strong's G 2129, Eulagia. Eulagia.
Really gonna give us no. Now you going to them. So yeah, and go to them. But yep. Let's go here to read this again. It's in Corinthians 9 and 6, but I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully, man. And we should want, to reap bountifully at the return of Yahweh Shai. Okay. You see the Lord, and Yahweh Shai, and we serve a righteous power, man, a fair judge. You know, and I say he set us all up to win. He's giving us talent. He's giving us the tools. He's giving us the network. We're set up to win. You know, so now it's just a thing like magnifying our office, man. So Lord will, you know, you brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified once again and give all praise and glory unto Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shah by Hashem, Rakapadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessing salutation to the hopeful of Shalom.